You ready to explore the power of women with us today?
I am definitely ready. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So we're diving into some really powerful teaching from Dr. Myles Munroe.
Oh, wow.
And we've got an excerpt from one of his talks, and it's like mind-blowing.
Okay.
From the start, Dr. Munroe really acknowledges all those challenges women face, especially in like our modern world, you know?
Yeah.
He talks about feeling like we're always navigating a system that was really designed for men,
Right.
you know? And there's all this pressure to be everything to everyone. Wife, mother, career, woman, like you name it.
It's a lot to carry.
It is. It's a lot.
Yeah, and I think so many women out there listening, they can relate to that feeling, you know?
Yes.
That pressure and maybe even some confusion about what their purpose really is.
Exactly.
Dr. Munroe connects this to how societal structures have shifted, especially after World War II,
Right.
when women entered the workforce in huge numbers.
Yes. You know, it's like those traditional roles were totally shaken up. And honestly, we're still trying to figure out what this new landscape even looks like.
Great. We're still kind of in the middle of it, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
We are definitely in the middle of it.
Yeah, Dr. Munroe isn't saying we need to go back to like the good old days or anything.
Right.
But he is pointing out how much that shift changed the way we see what it means to even be a man or a woman.
Yes, absolutely. And he even uses this really funny example of men cooking in the Bible.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He points out that, like, nowhere in Scripture does it ever actually say that women are supposed to cook.
Oh, interesting.
And he uses the example of Isaac, you know, asking his son to make him a meal before he passes away, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it really challenges all of those assumptions that we make about those traditional gender roles.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then he goes a step further.
Yeah.
Right.
What does he say?
He suggests that men who actually want to follow in Jesus's footsteps should learn to cook,
Wow.
just like Jesus did for his disciples.
Oh,
What do you think about that? I think it brings up a really important question for all of us listening.
okay.
Are we getting societal roles confused with what our actual inherent purpose is? Dr. Munroe seems to be saying that real fulfillment comes when we understand the original intent behind why we were created in the first place.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Now tell me a little bit more about this original intent.
Okay, so Dr. Munroe dives into this idea of man as species.
Okay.
He emphasizes that first and foremost, we are spiritual beings created in God's image.
Right.
And in the spiritual realm, there's no gender.
Oh, wow.
He even says, my wife is a man. She's a spirit being.
So he's saying that at our core, men and women are equal.
Exactly. He's highlighting our spiritual equality while also acknowledging the different ways we express ourselves in the physical realm.
Yes. And then he goes into his interpretation of the creation story.
Oh, this is good.
Which I think is so captivating. He talks about God placing the first earth suit
Okay.
containing all of mankind in the Garden of Eden before creating the female. So what do you think about that?
That's a really unique way of looking at it. It suggests that it was really important for man to be in God's presence first,
Right.
like establishing that connection before anything else.
Yes. And this is where he brings in these thought-provoking questions for all of you listening.
I love this part.
He asks, when choosing a partner, does he love God's presence? Does he have work? Can he improve you?
And those questions push us to look beyond just the surface level stuff.
Yes.
And consider those deeper spiritual foundations that our relationships are built on.
Absolutely. It's about aligning ourselves with God's intention for our lives, not just what society expects.
Exactly. So where does Eve come into all of this?
Well, Dr. Munroe says that God created Eve because it wasn't good for man to be all in one body.
Oh, wow.
It's like there was this unrealized potential inside of Adam that needed a counterpart to really blossom.
I love that imagery.
Me too.
Yeah.
So God takes a part from Adam to create Eve, highlighting this connection between them.
That's beautiful.
And this is where Dr. Munroe uses this really fascinating term,
What's that?
incubator, to describe the unique power that women have.
Okay.
He says that women receive, they multiply, they give life, and they give back, impacting everything from our homes to our families to even ideas.
That's powerful.
It is powerful. Think about all the women throughout history who have nurtured movements, families, businesses.
Right.
They take something and they make it even greater than it was before.
It's incredible if you think about it.
Yes, I know. Even in your own life, listener, who are the women who embody this incubator quality for you?
How do they nurture those ideas and those relationships and those talents in a way that brings forth something brand new and impactful.
Exactly. It's like this innate ability to receive nurture and then give back in such a way that creates this ripple effect.
Yeah.
And Dr. Munroe breaks down this power into like all these different facets. He describes women as worshipers, dominators, leaders, helpers, incubators, producers, encouragers, nurturers, prophetesses, receivers.
That's a beautiful list.
It is. It's like this incredible tapestry of strengths and gifts.
Yeah, and he also makes this really key distinction between men being like sources
Yes.
and sustainers.
Yeah.
And he uses the Hebrew word Abba, which we often translate as father, to explain this idea.
I'm going to need a little more help on that one.
Sure.
What exactly does he mean by Abba?
He's talking about that paternal figure in our lives who provides direction and counsel and protection. And Dr. Munroe believes that men are inherently driven to be these abbas, these sources of strength and stability for others. And that women are looking for that kind of paternal figure in their lives.
Interesting. So women are seeking that Abba to help them fulfill their purpose.
Yeah.
And men are seeking that source of life and energy that allows them to step into that role as protector and provider.
It's this beautiful dance, isn't it?
It is. It's this interplay of strengths and needs that when we understand it and when we embrace it can lead to these incredible, fulfilling relationships.
It really can.
But Dr. Munroe also hints at what happens when we misunderstand these roles.
Right.
Or when we misapply them. He points to the fall of man as an example of a malfunctioning female and an irresponsible male.
Ooh, that's a powerful statement.
It is. Now, before we go any further, I think it's really important to clarify what Dr. Munroe means by malfunctioning.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
It's crucial to understand what he's not saying here.
Right. He's not saying that women are inherently flawed.
No, not at all.
So what is he saying?
He's pointing out the consequences of Eve receiving something.
Okay.
The forbidden fruit that Adam, as the source in their relationship, hadn't given her permission to have.
So she stepped outside of the established order.
Yes, exactly.
She took on a role that really wasn't hers to take.
Right. And Adam, as the source and the sustainer, didn't fulfill his responsibility. He didn't question where that fruit came from. He didn't reiterate those original instructions.
Right.
He just went along with it.
That's an interesting perspective because it shifts the blame from Eve alone to like a shared responsibility.
Yes, I think that's important.
You know, for what happened.
Absolutely. And this ties back to what Dr. Munroe said earlier about women being prophetesses. They receive, they multiply, they give back, and that's true for both the positive and the negative things.
He gave that amazing example of a man receiving this vision from God and sharing it with his wife. And then later when he's feeling really discouraged, she reminds him of what he originally said.
She's not nagging him.
No.
It's prophecy.
It is.
She's reflecting back what he put out there, amplifying it.
Wow. That's so powerful.
It is. It shows how much influence women have on the men in their lives.
Right. They can amplify their strengths and their visions, but if the man isn't aligned with his purpose, they can also magnify his weaknesses.
That is a sobering thought.
It is. It really makes you think about how important it is to choose your partner wisely. Someone who's grounded in their purpose and really committed to supporting each other's growth.
Absolutely. And it shows how important it is for men to be secure in who they are, to truly embody those strong, loving abbas that women are looking for.
Dr. Munroe is challenging both men and women to rise up and create healthier, more fulfilling relationships.
It's a call to action.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's like he's giving us this blueprint for successful partnerships.
Yeah.
One that's based on truly understanding each other's strengths and our God-given purpose.
I love that. Now, remember, Dr. Munroe also said that women are not just incubators or prophetesses.
Right.
He highlighted so many other facets of who they are.
Yes. He did. He talked about them as worshipers, dominators, leaders.
Right.
And he made this really important distinction between leading by position, which is often associated with men, and leading by influence, which he believes can actually be a lot more potent.
Oh, I love that.
It really makes me think about all those women throughout history who have shaped events and societies, not through like brute force, but through wisdom and persuasion and strategic alliances.
Absolutely. Think of women like Queen Elizabeth I, Harriet Tubman, or Malala Yousafzai.
They didn't hold traditional positions of power.
Right.
But their influence was undeniable.
So good.
Even in our own lives, right? We see women leading in these subtle but powerful ways within their families, in their communities, in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about titles or formal authority.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for us to understand the unique power that women have.
Yes.
It's about recognizing and valuing those qualities that might not always be super obvious,
Mm-hmm.
but they are transformative.
It's like Dr. Munroe is urging us to look beyond just the surface and
Wow.
appreciate how deep and complex it really is to be a woman.
He's inviting us to see women not as incomplete men,
Right.
but as powerful beings in their own right,
Yes.
capable of shaping the world in these incredible ways.
We've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
from the historical context of gender roles
Mhm.
to the spiritual foundation of our relationships to the unique power and purpose of women.
It's a lot to take in.
Dr. Munroe has given us a lot to think about.
Yes. So what does this all mean for you listening?
What are your takeaways from this part of our deep dive?
You know, it's amazing how Dr. Munroe takes these old stories and makes them relevant to us today.
Right.
He's saying those same desires, those longings for connection, purpose, fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
they're still so real for us today.
So it's not just about understanding this stuff, in a historical or a theological sense.
Right.
But it's about actually applying it to our modern relationships.
Exactly. And I think one of the most powerful things for everyone listening is that real fulfillment for both men and women comes when we're aligned with our God-given purpose.
So it's not about trying to fit into what society says or be something we're not.
No way. It's about figuring out who we were made to be
Mm-hmm.
and living a life that's true to that.
Nah. He also talked about the importance of, recognizing and celebrating the unique strength that both genders bring to the table.
Yes, absolutely.
Huh.
It's about seeing that men and women are different.
Right.
But those differences, when we understand them and appreciate them, can create something truly amazing.
It's like two pieces of a puzzle that fit perfectly
I
together.
love that analogy.
Right.
It's not about competing or trying to be the same. It's about complementing each other.
Supporting each other.
Exactly. And it all goes back to that idea of Abba, an incubator,
Right.
the source and the nurturer working in harmony
Mm-hmm.
to create and sustain life, whether it's a family, a business, even an idea.
Okay, that makes so much sense. I'm still kind of stuck on that term malfunctioning
Yeah,
that Dr. Munroe used when he talked about the fall of man. Can you break that down a bit more?
of course. Remember, he is not saying women are inherently flawed or broken.
Okay, good.
He's using that term to describe what happens when Eve goes outside of her God-given role
Right.
by accepting the forbidden fruit. Remember that Adam, as the source, didn't give her.
Right. So she kind of disrupted that flow of their connection.
Yes, exactly. That reliance on the Abba
Yeah.
to provide and protect.
And Adam didn't exactly step up to the plate either.
Right.
No?
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't fulfill his responsibility as the source.
Right.
He didn't question where the fruit came from, didn't reiterate the rules.
Yeah.
He just kind of went along with it.
That's interesting because it really highlights the shared responsibility that they both had in that moment.
It does. It underscores
Yeah.
how important it is for both men and women to understand and embrace their God-given roles. Because when those roles get distorted or misapplied,
Yeah.
they can lead to all sorts of problems, disharmony, even a fall from grace.
That reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, women as prophetesses.
Oh, yes.
What does that mean in this context?
So Dr. Munroe uses this term to describe that special ability women have
Okay.
to receive, amplify, and reflect back what they've been given. He gave that example of a man getting a vision from God,
Yeah.
sharing it with his wife.
Hmm.
And later on, when he's feeling lost or discouraged, she reminds him of what he originally said.
It's like she holds on to that vision for him,
Yeah.
helps him stay true to his purpose.
And that's why it's so important for men to be open to that kind of guidance
Yeah.
and support from the women in their lives.
It's not about being controlled.
Hmm.
It's about having someone who can help you stay focused on what matters.
Exactly. It's a true partnership, a collaboration where everyone brings their strengths to the table.
Okay, I like that. Now I remember Dr. Munroe also said that women aren't just incubators or prophetesses.
Right.
He highlighted so many other beautiful parts of who they are.
He did. He talked about them as worshipers,
Yes.
dominators, leaders.
Right, and he made that really important distinction between leading by position,
Yes.
which is often associated with men,
Right.
and leading by influence, which he believes is actually a lot more powerful and effective.
I love that.
It's like that saying, behind every great man is a great woman. But I think Dr. Munroe would say it's not about being behind anyone.
Yeah.
It's about walking alongside,
Yes.
influencing, inspiring.
Think about women like Harriet Tubman.
Oh, yes.
Leading slaves to freedom on the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have some official title or position of power, but her influence was undeniable.
And Malala Yousafzai.
Yes.
Standing up for girls' education even when it was dangerous.
These women and so many others prove that true leadership isn't about power over others. It's about inspiring and empowering them to be their best selves.
So it's about recognizing and valuing those qualities that might not be super obvious.
Exactly.
But they can change the world.
Dr. Munroe is challenging us to see those qualities in ourselves and the women around us.
Yes.
He wants us to truly appreciate how deep and complex it is to be a woman.
Not as some incomplete version of a man.
No.
But as a powerful force in her own right.
Right. He's pushing us to look past those limited definitions of womanhood and embrace all that we're capable of.
And remember, this understanding of a woman's power isn't just about, individual fulfillment.
Right.
It's about recognizing how much women impact the world around them.
Their families, their communities, even society as a whole.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what would you say are the most important things for our listeners to remember? For me, it's that idea that our purpose, as men and women, it's all tied to our relationship with God.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
He makes it clear that our main connection should be with God.
Yeah.
That's where we find out who we really are and what we're meant to do.
And from that place, we can build those healthy relationships with others based on respect, understanding, being committed to helping each other live out our purpose.
It's not about changing each other or forcing ourselves into boxes that don't fit.
It's about embracing who we were created to be and, cheering each other on along the way.
I love that. And for our listeners, that might mean taking some time to really look inward. Ask yourself, what are my gifts? What lights me up? How can I use those things to make a difference?
It's like finding your own blueprint for a life that feels good and surrounding yourself with people who get it, who support you in that.
That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And I think Dr. Munroe would agree. He really pushed us to, look past those superficial ideas of success and happiness and focus on what really matters.
Yeah, getting in line with our purpose and building relationships that honor and support that.
Right. This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has. I feel like I understand what it means to be a woman in a whole new way.
Me too. Dr. Munroe's teaching, it's challenging, but it's so inspiring. It makes you think about the choices we make in our relationships and how those choices can either lead us closer to our purpose or take us further away from it.
So much to think about. So as we wrap up, what's the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
I think it boils down to this. Embrace your power. Whether you're a man or a woman, you are valuable. You are worthy, not because of what society says, but because you were created with intention. You have a purpose. So go out there and make a difference. Use your gifts to create something beautiful and meaningful.
I love that. And remember, this is just the beginning. Keep thinking about these ideas, dig deeper into Dr. Munroe's work, and see how you can apply it to your own life. Until next time.